So then it really takes us even further in why does someone acts as a hero could be coming from this place of not really being willing to step in your own life and to shine the light on you. Well, hello, Katie.
Hello, Sophie. I always feel like a flower blooming when I get to see you.
Oh, me too. Today's cute. We're wearing stripes and dots, and we
I know, and I was just remarking when we got together that these were two of the things that I refused to wear as a child.
The dots and the stripes?
Yes, the dots, polka dots and stripes, because somehow I had a position that those were too usual. You know, everybody does it, and I wanted to be more unique.
Well, now today I think it's very unique that we're dressed with like colors and stripes, and so good. All right. So I was traveling with my family this past few days, and I witnessed something that I thought would be really interesting for us to explore, to tie in with the conversation we've been having with the hero syndrome. And my brother has given me the authorization to do this. So here we go.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes. He finds himself heroing a lot. Like he really has built a life where helping others, not being asked to help.
Yes.
And he was,
which is the hero move.
Which is exactly the hero move. And he, a couple of times when I would notice or comment or we would talk about it together, he noticed that I also like to help people. And he said, what do you think is the difference? And we started exploring why his life seemed, and he acknowledged that his sounded different for him than mine as well, but just couldn't exactly nail it. So I thought it'd be super fun. And we've also had a lot of our listeners have responded to our episode on heroing. And so I think it's worth exploring deeper.
I do too. And because for a long time, I've had the sense, the very deep sense that the hero is really what keeps the triangle going. So the hero, if I'm taking the hero role, then there's no place for you except the villain. I don't like what you're doing, or victim. Please come and fix me. And it doesn't foster people's resourcefulness and actually taking responsibility. And by that I mean the ability to respond.
Yes.
And so rather than these pattern responses, so I think that the hero, and it's also very jarring for people because they go, whoa, wait a minute, don't we need heroes?
Right. And the identity. So one of the things he said that I thought would be good for us to play with is he was basically saying, if I'm not that, what am I? Like almost like it shows value and worth of his own worth in a way that he was a little bit like, what would I do to experience this that I experienced when I saved some situation?
Yes, and it is. I was just seeing and feeling a little burst of adrenaline.
Yes,
that we think that only happens with the villain and the victim, but you get this like, oh, I did something. What that burst of good feeling, but my sense is that it must be tied to adrenaline because it doesn't last. So it's not about the genuine nourishment of connection where you're working with somebody to help foster their own ability to respond to life, and being with them in that. But if you take that over, what can they do? But when you step out of that role, it brings up the larger issue too of where do we find our value?
Yeah. And that is exactly what he was exploring. And it has sadness to it, when you to it, like it's almost removing, like you've done something your whole life you think is good. And then you start to see that it might be something that is preventing, because of course it goes with when he does that, he's also not focused on doing some of the things that are creative that he would like to do with his life.
Exactly.
And he picked up on that as well.
Oh, wow, wonderful.
I'm not the hero of me, he said in one of our conversations, which I thought was really juicy. Like be hero to others in some ways ends up not fostering his stepping up for himself in some way.
Yes, I think so many of us are taught, it's better to give than receive. And I think it fits in with the upper limit problem also, is that don't be too full of yourself. It's really better to be fostering others, expansion than it is to be, when you're feeling good about yourself, there's this whole sense of you're strutting and you're showing off. And so I think it fits in with don't be too much. But if you're giving to others, if you're giving all that to others, that's just fine for you to have that sense of I'm of value. But to stand in your own personhood and say, I have value and here's what I really most want to do. I think the thing that might be missing in there was just coming to me is if you're expressing genius, you're doing what you love to do, that's also of service. Yeah. But what may be missing is that he's not doing what he really loves to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
it's really potent. So then it really takes us even further in why does someone acts as a hero could be coming from this place of not really being willing to step in your own life and to shine the light on you.
Yes, to be and because we've seen what happens to people who who shine the light on themselves or just stand in the light, that very often people come and throw things at them and and try to pull them down, because that's, I think, all part of the game that's gone on for centuries of God save the king, let's kill the king.
Yes.
No, it's that same dynamic of elevating people and going, oh my God, look how wonderful you are. And then okay, that's down. Over. We toss them out and then look for the next big burst of adrenaline that can come from superheroing.
I saw something online yesterday, a friend of mine on social media, he's a doctor, a medical doctor. And lately he's been on a trend of he dances and he expresses himself and he talks about how expression is probably one of the best medicine and this whole thing. And yesterday he did a post where he showed a comment that someone wrote that was basically stay in your lane, you're a doctor, give advice as being a doctor, and basically stay where I'm comfortable with you staying. Right. And he did a post where he's pointing to the thing and he's like, what is this culture that I'm being attacked because I'm wanting to express myself because it's not exactly as they want me to? He was really, it was open and curious. He wasn't attacking the person or anything, but he was just like, what is this that do I need to defend myself now? What is this?
Well, I think that a lot of people do experience that they need to defend themselves I think for being spontaneous, for not being programmed, for not following the script, but doing something that is an expression of their own unique becoming, their own unique authoring of themselves.
So how do you think we can play with that? So then we need to toughen our skin, and when people come at us, how do you do that
yes. Well, then, I don't recommend toughening your skin. It is kind of like where people say, put a lot of emphasis on boundaries. Establish clean boundaries, and which I think is actually impossible because we're so empathic with each other and we're so telepathic that boundaries, I'm going to keep you out, takes so much effort that I think it drains your own creative energy. And what was just coming to me is that that presence, really coming into your full presence, what we call being, in Be, Play, Love, when you be yourself fully out to the edges, then that really takes the place of having to defend yourself or attack the other. I was just remembering, back in the, and this dates me back in the Vietnam era, where I remember a whole bunch of people standing in presence with facing the National Guard.
Yeah.
And you can see in the pictures, there's something going on there. And what I think it is presence, that the people were so fully in their presence that they engaged and they interrupted. It's a great disruptor to be fully in yourself, to have the courage to say, here I am, this is what I want, this is what I'm expressing. So I was also thinking that this is tied into how much fear people are living in, the fear of being canceled, the fear of being ghosted, the fear of being shamed,
disliked, yeah, just
disliked, and all of that stuff that goes on online. And so when I encounter that, I will speak to that. I will actually say this. This sounds like you're dismissing the other person. When I try this on, I feel like less than. And so on my site, I want people to really be expressing what's true for them, but we're not going to, we're not going to have any, blaming and criticizing of others on the site. And so I just find ways to counter that, but it's a huge issue.
It's an issue because in this case, it's your website, so you can control, you can say, we're not going to do that.
Right.
The world is obviously opened up with anyone can say anything to anyone at any time.
Anytime.
About anything.
Right.
So it's like, talk about boundaries. It's like, trying to stop a fire hydrant, coming at you.
Yeah.
So when I meant by toughening skin, it may not be what it means. Because like yesterday I was facilitating for a group and it was going really, really well. And everybody was with me. Like there was this, how it goes when it's going well. And then I said something, this guy was talking about, he has dogs and he really doesn't like to take care of his dogs. Like he doesn't like to walk them. It's like, it's really a pain for him. And I said, well, maybe you shouldn't have dogs. That was my comment. Be like, and he was so offended and he kind of went around and talked to everyone and got everybody riled up. And, in this case, I was like, okay, yeah, well, I mean, if you have children and you don't want to feed them, I say don't have children. That doesn't seem so far out of an advice, but it did do something. Like it kind of jolted me, especially because I thought everybody was so coming along with me. And so I'm curious to like, what do I just feel this like, oh, wow, I disappointed my friend who was hosting the thing. And, like, could I have avoided it? But then I'm like in charge of this guy's feelings, which I really don't want to be.
Right.
So how do what's a proper stance then for me that would not leak my energy?
Well, what was just occurring to me is that the hero in this case, if he was asking you to be the hero, and that is taking more than 100% responsibility. We don't think of the hero as a responsibility move. But if I'm the hero, I get over into your space. I'm actually getting over into your lane and solving the problem for you. Yeah. And not allowing you to find your own resourcefulness, your own what's really going on for me, what do I really want? And so the expecting you to treat him like a victim is what I'm hearing.
Yes. But also because I'm familiar with the narcissism but what about him? Like I was thinking, he relinquishes his power. Like basically it ruined the evening for him, the way he described it to my friend, when all along he was getting all this value and loving it and da-da-da-da. All of a sudden his energy is like shut off, from him not liking that I said that. And it saddened me a little bit that it was like, what about his own experience and his own power? That one little comment from someone he doesn't even know or cares that much about. And I was able to bulldoze him like that is interesting that someone would.
Interesting, but and also just a little unsettling to be, that easy to topple over. And what I'm hearing is that he's getting his juice from out there. So from the people affirming his point of view.
Yes.
And when his point of view is not affirmed, it's like he's built his house on sand and the whole thing crumbles.
Yes.
Rather than he's built his house on his own experiences, what he wants, his ability to make agreements, all of those integrity skills.
Yes.
He's outsourced those. Like if somebody doesn't like it, he would change his whole his whole way of being.
Exactly, which is interesting because if he had built these skills and it was a solid castle, then when I say what I say, then he can go like, I don't like this girl. Like, I don't, the fact that she thinks I shouldn't be a dog daddy or whatever, I don't want to hang out with her. Fine. But not, the entire edifice seemed like it crumbled indeed.
Well, what I'm also hearing is that people will then gather, if I'm not sourcing my own value, I'm
Yes.
going to be constantly trying to enroll others,
Yes.
which would leads to those divisions in us versus them, and them versus you, and that bad thing that you said. And you spend all of your energy then outsourcing rather than on your own creative flow. And what is it that I want to contribute in the world? And also really looking at, see, for me, responsibility is looking at the connections between things. This happened, this was my reaction. What, how did I create that? So,
Oh,
where did I learn to think of myself in that way? And because then I can learn something different. But if I don't take that opportunity to learn, like, oh gosh, what's really going on here? And how did I contribute to this? I think of it really as a responsibility move, a genuine responsibility, which is about reclaiming your creativity. So he had outsourced his creativity also.
yes. And it's funny because as often you and I talk about the embodied experience, but when I found out that that was his reaction, I was able to accompany myself. I was like, yeah, something, you're not vanilla. Not everybody's gonna like you. And that's okay. Like I kind of like I really, but I didn't ignore. I didn't deny that I was a little bit taken
Yeah.
aback because when you share something, it's like I make a cake and you eat it and you're like, "Bleh," I hate the cake.
Right.
It's not exactly like, oh, I don't care. No, it's like
I
it
don't care
has
if you spit out my cake, but
right.
yeah.
So it affects me.
Yes.
So in this case, I like that I felt a little bit like maybe my inner little girl was saddened that I didn't deliver or that
Yeah.
whatever, although I did deliver because everybody else was having a really fabulous time. It's just, but I did walk with myself in a really gentle way with kind of like, yeah, not everybody likes the taste of super direct, that's fine.
Right. And yes, I was just remembering a pattern that I used to have when I would be presenting in groups, or
Yeah.
we'd sometimes have really big groups, and my attention would always go to the person who was leaving the room,
Ah,
or the person who they'd get up in the middle and leave, and part of me would leave with them, like, oh dear, what did I do
here.
that made them leave? And then and then what I was thinking of is how much time I've taken to get free of the drama of approval and disapproval.
Yes.
I think this is part of what's going on here, and it's entirely what goes on social media for I think a lot of people. Do they like me? Oh, they don't like me. That so really, what you were saying about not everybody is going to like me is a truth that I don't think a lot of people have actually faced and tried on and go, oh, and how is it for me if somebody, I say something I really love, but another person goes, ugh, the,
I remember a very profound conversation with Abby, my friend, who's incredibly wise. And I was sharing something along those lines. And she said, if everybody liked you, you probably would not be very interesting. It's like the people that are liked by all are not
right.
the ones that are trying to shake the boat and do something different. And innovators, innovators are very often not liked. So
Yes.
it's almost like I don't take it exactly as a pride statement at this point, but it's a little
Right.
bit of like, you don't like me? Okay, I'm doing something that doesn't fit in your box. Doesn't mean doesn't mean anything about what I'm doing, really. It's
It
about,
doesn't, but we do, I think, are in my opinion, more susceptible to that right now because of this last 15 years of the growth of social media, and everybody thinking that they have a right to make a comment on anything,
yeah,
even areas that they have absolutely no knowledge of, or no experience, and they don't even know you or me or the idea. And so, like, sometimes in some of our posts, and I can never really even tell why it's this particular post, there'll be this whole pile on of people disapproving of it,
yeah,
and it's just an innocuous 140 characters about some suggestion that could enhance your relationships. And so I now have, like, I kind of just wonder, like, wow, It sort of reminds me of my cats. When the weather turns, they can get a little antsy and they start running around. And it doesn't have anything to do with me, but
Right.
but it
Just
definitely.
witnessing. You're just watching the cats go crazy, and
I'm
it's
watching the cats go crazy, and so being able to stand and enjoy my own presence when other people disapprove or don't like or even are neutral, I think that's a really valuable skill for all of us.
it is,
And
and
then
the fact
turning
that
my attention to, how can I turn this into creative expression? Like how can I play with it? How might this be of value to me? Is there anything I could learn from
it's funny
this?
because when you started saying that, I was going to ask you though, what is the difference between someone like I want to take criticism if it's helpful and if it's feedback that's going to make me a better whatever speaker or any of those things? Some of it could be interesting, but I think what you just said handles that because it's if I ask myself, oh, that's interesting, they said that. Let's see, let's deconstruct to remove the drama, let's say, or remove the
Right.
emotional
Like, yeah, is there anything
pile.
of value that I might learn here? Uh, I think there almost always is something, even if that is something like, I don't agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
This is my experience.
Mm-hmm.
That where I, stand in my own experience and am able to express that. But often, if the other person were able to do that, what's there for me to learn in this, that
Yes.
when we would have a different interaction.
Yes,
And
because then it would be a curiosity. And as you know, Gay,
yes,
you often
yes,
talk about this wonder,
yeah,
wonder, where is that from? Or I wonder if there's value for me. That would lead for both sides because they could also be on their end. As you just said, he could have listened to that and be like, I do wonder if there's something in that comment that if I don't like to walk my dogs, maybe I should
yeah,
get
but
dog
maybe there
walker.
is something there, because almost always when if I get really kind of thrown by something, I know there's something in there for me,
Right.
that some past experience that I took a picture of, or
Yes.
something that happened with some other person that I'm now putting his face on this other person. And I wanted to just clarify. I don't know if I've done this before, but I really experience a big difference between criticism and feedback.
Oh, tell me
And
more.
yeah, so for in my experience, criticism is an attack on your being.
Okay.
So criticism, like, God, what you are such a slob.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas feedback would be, I noticed that you leave your clothes, you just drop them where they are, and when I look at it, I feel irritated and think, would you please put your clothes away so I don't have to? So it's feedback is about something measurable that could actually be changed. But if I say, God, you're just a slob, there's no way for you to actually respond to that without devaluing your being. And so if I hear criticism from another person, I do my best to clarify that.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the
What does that mean? Like what?
what? Well, and actually, what are you seeing or hearing?
Mhm.
What's the actual problem here that might be able to be changed? And very often we get there, it's just, I didn't like it, or, that was weird. Or, uh,
It's interesting to kind of tag along with this story because I think it has a good amount of the way the friend reported to me of his comment was that he thought I was very insensitive.
right.
And
So
and
that's a criticism.
that's a character attack. It's like I
Yes.
am very sensitive and I'm actually very kind. And the fact that he took what I said against him has very little to do with me. And so now that I hear you, I want to kind of go back to the conversation, maybe even more with her than with him, because I don't really have a relationship with him. I don't really care. I mean, whatever, I care, but not really. And so, really, what I'm thinking is I'd like to talk to her about, like, for you to not have responded, even like
Right.
insensitive, like, why that, there was no intrinsic insensibility in what I said at all, I don't think.
I'm just remembering that over the years, I would say that for both Gay and I, that response to us, like, boy, you're really tough, or that's insensitive. And couldn't you be nicer?
Yes,
Because
nicer.
what we do is to call out what's actually happening.
Mm-hmm.
And there are
Some
lots and
people
lots of
don't like
people.
that.
Yeah, people don't like that. You're supposed to kind of cover it over and just make a little suggestion and say, maybe in the future, if you approach this a little different, to kind of tiptoe, which I believe also is a hero move.
Yes.
That I want to have people in my life who will be direct. I
Yes.
want to know what's actually going on.
Yeah.
It's one of the things I so value about you is that I know that you will share. If there's something going on, you will let me know. And
Yes. And so will you.
and for me, what that opens up is this flow of creativity, this
Yes.
flow of sharing, and a kind of a we space where both of our creativity gets supported. And like I'll notice if something, like you have a response to something, I'll go, oh, what just happened there? And
Yes.
so being with each other at that deeper levels rather than at that superficial, like throwing rocks at each other.
Yes. Oh, in closing, I would love to hear your thoughts on. Do we clean up all relationships? Do you recommend? Like, is it my? I don't even know how to ask. Like, I don't even know how to ask without it being like even a little hero-y. Possibly, it's like, do I hang up that call and I do my own little inner work or whatever, and then I'm done? Or is
uh,
it important for me to go back if it's a close? The one in the middle, the friend is a good friend. Like it's an
well,
important
if it's a
relationship.
friend and someone with whom you want to have a deeper relationship,
Yes.
there may be something to clarify there. I don't know if it's a cleanup, because I
Okay.
don't think there's anything to clean up.
Yeah. So how would
Because,
how would the clarifying look like then?
well, for me, it would be, here was my experience. I saw this and I saw that, well, he's not taking care of his dog. So maybe that means he doesn't really want to have dogs. That was my thought. So I identified that was my thought. I shared my thought because that's what I was experiencing in that moment. That's real. And I don't experience any need to defend that because that's what happened. And so, and this is really at the crux of transformation. One of the things that Krishnamurti said, who's um, a long gone but a very active mentor for us, is that all you need to do to find out what your intention is to look at the result.
Okay.
So, like if I intended to let you know that something that I was hurt by something, but I don't actually tell you I was hurt by what you said, but then later on I spill something on you,
Yes.
and and you go, what happened there? And I go, oh, so sorry, I just spilled something on you, rather than looking at, oh, I
Mm.
didn't share this with you and then I spilled something on you, so I'm letting my body communicate rather than communicating with you in a straightforward way.
Oh, so in this case, I could say to her, I do not want in a few weeks to have this thing of like, do I fully trust that she's going to understand? Or so I'd rather come to you and make sure that this communication between us is clear.
Yes. Yeah. And so I would ask, well, what's still niggling? What
Mm-hmm.
is it's so it's almost always a feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And then for her to take responsibility for, oh, that reminded me of conversations that I had with my brother, where he always had to win and I always had to accommodate. Or so there's a way in which somebody says, oh, what could I learn from this?
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Not just, I'm going to monitor so that I make sure that you're behaving in a way that fits my worldview.
That is beautiful. And I can do the same. I can hang up the call from this and
You
say,
can hang up the phone. I'm
and there we
remembering
go.
way back in Colorado, and I learned this from Gay. He was talking with somebody whose mother-in-law would call her, in the middle of the night when she was drunk, and she'd be on the phone with her, and Gay said, "Have you ever, because this is the old phone,
Oh,
said,
hang up the phone.
have you ever considered, hey, oh, I couldn't possibly do that. Oh my goodness, that would be so unloving." So what's more unloving? Treating the other person like a moron,
Yeah.
rather than as a responsible person and hanging up the phone. So I think we don't want to have people get mad at us.
Yeah.
Or not like us. And so it comes around again to your willingness. And, I've played with this for years because, because I can feel it. If somebody is not approving of me, I can
Yeah.
feel it.
Yeah, me too.
And okay, so how do I open to just integrating that? And not everybody is going to like me, but do I like me?
Yes. Do I surround myself with friends and with
Yes.
people that actually operate at that, not better or higher, just at that similar vibration? I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. That's beautiful. So again, in closing, because we kind of chatted so much more, I'm curious do you have an idea for someone not related to an interaction to others, but like as a proactive act? Like maybe when I entered the scene yesterday, I could already feed myself a little bit of like, as you know, not everybody likes what you say. So let's just show up in all honesty, like something where I would proactively prep myself a little bit, maybe. Do you think?
Well, this is where I would do something to really presence myself fully.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't rehearse in my head. I would open up my body, like breathing. And for me, moving a little bit always gets my flow going, circulating, and appreciating myself. So appreciating is such a wonderful way to presence yourself fully. And rather than requiring other people to appreciate you.
Yeah.
So, breathing and moving a little bit and maybe doing some fear melters. So, any anxiety, so that I'm showing up available.
Yes, I love that. I will try. I have another one tonight. I will definitely. I love the way I asked you the question. You immediately, for those of you that are not watching, you started wiggling like immediately.
Yeah.
You had like almost to understand me or know what to give me as an answer. You kind of went to your body.
Yes.
Kind of
And
to watch.
Going to your body first is so effective.
Yeah.
It's so easy. And opening up to that and letting your body support you is where your intuition comes from, and and new ideas. And so yeah,
it's free and you have it available at all times. You are with your body at all times. I loved it. Thank you so much, Katie. This was a beautiful conversation.
Oh yeah, this was very lively. I feel very lively, and I appreciate that you're a person with whom I can be real.
Oh, and so can I. I love that about us. Thank you. I love you. Have a good
Love
week.
you. Mwah.
Mwah.